Hello, I'm Eleonora, an Italian podcaster, and this is Coscienza Femminile, the podcast that challenges the patriarchy and reclaims history, one fearless conversation at a time. We explore women's history, feminist thought, and gender issues, challenging the narratives that have shaped and often silenced women's voices. I'm currently studying philosophical sciences, and my dream is to work in media and communication to ensure that women's perspectives are not just included, but truly represented. This is my first episode in English, that's why I'm doing, a quick introduction about me, and I'm beyond excited to share these discussions with a wider audience. I'll do my best, but English isn't my first language, so if I make any mistakes, I hope you'll bear with me. Ladies, gentlemen, and fabulous non-binary individuals, let's talk about Bridget Jones. You know her, you'll love her, or at least you laughed at her. She's the diary writing, the Chardonnay drinking, constantly calorie counting, ever embarrassed singleton who somehow became a cultural icon of modern womanhood. But let's ask the real question. Is Bridget Jones a symbol of female empowerment, or just another cleverly disguised trap designed to keep women obsessed with their weight, their love life, and their ever-dwindling self-esteem? Bridget Jones, the media at large have played a huge role in shaping and commercializing the image of the single woman. And let me tell you, it's a wild ride. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of tea if you're feeling civilized, because we're about to unravel the myth of Bridget Jones. One of the most striking things about Bridget is that no matter what she does, she's always framed as, inadequate. Her career, a complete afterthought, serving only as a backdrop to her romantic misadventures. She's neither passionate about her work nor particularly skilled at it. She stumbles into TV journalism without any real qualifications, makes humiliating mistakes on air, and never appears competent in her field. She doesn't own her intelligence or talents, because in the world of Bridget Jones, she doesn't seem to have any. Her lack of competence is played for laughs, but it reinforces a damaging stereotype. The idea that women, especially single women, are always out of their depth, needing constant correction, guidance, and patience from men. Bridget isn't just clumsy, she's frequently positioned as an ignorant, naive woman who needs things explained to her. Whether it's her boss, sleazy Daniel Cleaver, or her love interest, the charming Mark Darcy, men are always positioned as the ones with knowledge and authority, while she's the blonde girl who falls into situations without understanding them. And then there's her constant apologizing. Bridget says sorry even when she has nothing to apologize for. A classic learned behavior of women who are socialized to avoid conflict, to smooth things over, to make themselves small and inoffensive. It's a minor detail, but it speaks volumes. Then, of course, we have the way she reacts to male validation. The second a man pays her a compliment, she melts. She doesn't challenge it. She doesn't question whether it's meaningful. She just absorbs it as truth, because in her world, a man's approval is the ultimate confirmation of her worth. Let's talk about one of the most iconic moments in Bridget Jones' diary. So, Mark Darcy telling Bridget that he likes her just as she is. The film treats this line as groundbreaking, a moment of deep emotional significance. Bridget and her friends react as if it's the most romantic, unbelievable thing a man has ever said. But think about it for a second. A man liking you for who you are should be the absolute baseline of a healthy relationship, not some extraordinary act of generosity. Why does this feel revolutionary for Bridget? Because she has spent her entire life believing she's fundamentally unlovable unless she's thinner, smarter, more polished, and more self-controlled. When a man tells her that she's enough without changing, it shatters the reality she has been conditioned to accept. And this is exactly why Bridget Jones, for all her relatability, is also a dangerous blueprint for self-worth. It suggests that women should expect to be considered inadequate, that being like as you are is a rare and precious gift, not an absolute requirement for a decent relationship. To truly understand Bridget, we need to look at her real-life counterpart, Cosmopolitan. Yes, Cosmo, the magazine that tells women they are strong, independent, and totally in control, but also that they must be sexy at all times, worship the latest diet trend, and master the 27 tricks to keep your man satisfied. Well, much like Bridget, Cosmopolitan sells the illusion of empowerment, but only within the boundaries of traditional femininity. It tells women they can have it all, but defines all as a career, a perfect body, and a man. Bridget, much like Cosmo, represents a woman who is free, but never too free, independent, but not in a way that might make men uncomfortable. It's feminism, but with a patriarchal safety net. Bridget's impact wasn't just confined to books and movies, it sparked a national debate. Some journalists celebrated her, claiming she made singlehood less shameful and more relatable. Others ripped her apart, calling her pathetic and accusing her of setting women back decades. Most news outlets, however, reinforced the smug married versus singleton binary, failing to acknowledge the single women, much like all women, are not monolith. This reflects a bigger problem in media representation. Single women are either pitiful and desperate, like Bridget, or ruthless and career-obsessed, like Miranda Priestley. The idea that a woman might be happy and single, successful and fulfilled, almost unheard of. Now, here's something interesting. Bridget Jones' Diary, it's not just a guilty pleasure read or a rom-com staple. It's actually being studied in classrooms. And why? Because beneath all the calorie counting, romantic disasters, and self-deprecating humor, it's a perfect case study for dissecting gender norms, societal expectations, and feminist critique. At first glance, using Bridget Jones' Diary as an educational tool might seem surprising. After all, it's not exactly, Shakespeare or Virginia Woolf, but that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Students aren't just studying a distant historical text. They're analysing something that still resonates in modern pop culture. And what better way to engage young people in discussions on gender, feminism, and media representation than through a character they likely already know? When examined through a feminist lens, Bridget Jones' Diary forces students to confront some big questions about gender, identity, and societal expectations. Why is Bridget's self-worth so deeply tied to male validation? Why does the media shape our perceptions of single women? Why is a woman's career treated as secondary to her love life? Does the novel reinforce harmful stereotypes, or is it actually mocking them? By placing Bridget Jones under a critical feminist microscope, students can start seeing how deeply ingrained gender expectations shape not just fictional characters but real people too. So the big conversations teaching Bridget Jones' Diary are gender norms and stereotypes. Bridget is the textbook definition of a woman trapped by societal expectations. She is constantly told by the media, by her friends and herself that she must be thinner or more desirable. The novel provides a perfect springboard to discuss how women are conditioned to feel inadequate no matter what they do. do. Power and behavior in gender dynamics. Why does Bridget apologize all the time? Why does she hang on to every word of men who validate her? Why is she portrayed as incompetent in the workplace while the men around her take charge? Feminism and its contradictions. On the surface, Bridget seems like an independent modern woman. She drinks, she has sex before marriage, she has a career, but scratch a little deeper and you'll find that she's still shackled to patriarchal expectations. Is she a feminist heroine or simply a woman surviving in a world that demands she conforms? These themes aren't just abstract ideas, they affect young people's lives in real ways. Teaching Bridget Jones' Diary isn't about glorifying her struggles, it's about using her story as a way to challenge the very stereotypes she embodies. Now, what's the best way to get students thinking critically? Get them talking. One of the most effective methods in feminist pedagogy is dialogue, giving students a space to discuss, debate, and challenge what they read. Instead of simply absorbing information, they are encouraged to debate whether Bridget is a victim or societal pressures or an active participant in them, reflect on how media still portrays single women today. Is the Bridget Jones effect still alive? Question whether the novel's humor is satire or simply reinforcing damaging stereotypes. A dialogic classroom where students actively engage with each other's interpretations helps them unpack the real-world implications of what they read. Feminism isn't just a theory in textbooks, it's something that shapes their lives, relationships, and aspirations. Education at its core is supposed to prepare students to navigate society as informed, critical thinkers. That means tackling real-world social issues, including gender inequality, representation, and media influence. According to educational frameworks, schools have a duty to promote democratic values, and this includes gender equality and challenging oppressive societal norms. Bridget Jones' Diary, while not an overtly feminist text, serves a gateway into these discussions. Why? Because the issues Bridget faces, like body image pressures, workplace sexism, romantic obsession, self-doubt, are not just fiction, they are deeply ingrained cultural norms that many young people, especially women, still struggle with today. By studying the novel, students aren't just analysing a story, they are examining the world around them and questioning why certain expectations still exist. Now, if you had to sum up Bridget Jones' Diary in a single phrase, you might say something like the chaotic confessions of a lovable mess. But if we take a step back and really examine Bridget's character, the way she views herself, and more importantly, how society views her, things start to look a little more complicated. Bridget isn't just an individual, she's a product of the world she lives in. And that's exactly why studying her through a feminist lens makes for such a fascinating discussion, especially in a classroom setting. From the very first page of Bridget Jones' Diary, we watch Bridget battle with herself. Every chapter begins with a rigid list of self-surveillance: how much she weighs, how many cigarettes she smoked, how much alcohol she's consumed, and it's almost like she's constantly trying to prove something to herself, to society, to the invisible voices of judgment in her head. On the surface, Bridget wants to be a modern, independent woman, a woman of substance, who doesn't need a man to complete her. This contradiction defines Bridget Jones. She wants to believe she's a strong and self-sufficient, but the world around her has taught her that her value is dependent on male approval. So when she says she doesn't need Daniel, who is she really trying to convince, us or herself? And the worst part, this isn't just Bridget's personal struggle. This is a textbook example of how women are socialized. The pressure to be independent but not too independent, confident but still self-deprecating, ambitious but never intimidating. Bridget embodies the impossible standards of womanhood. And when she does finally get male validation, it completely overrides her so-called feminist convictions. She was literally mid-feminist rant when Daniel showed up, and suddenly, boom, she's glowing with the pride because she, out of all women, has managed to land a man. The message: feminism is all well and good, but let's not get too carried away. Securing a man is the real prize. One of the most frustrating aspects of Bridget Jones' diary is the double standard between Bridget and Daniel. Society judges her for being single and career-focused, while he gets to play the field without consequence. Take, for example, this moment.
Right, everyone, this is Bridget. Bridge, this is Hugo and Jane, and obviously you know Cosmo and Woney.
Hi, Bridge.
This is Alistair and Henrietta.
Hello.
Julia and Michael.
Hey.
Joanne and Paul.
Hello.
And Jeremy's partners from Chambers. This is Natasha Glenville and Mark Darcy.
Hi there.
Hello.
Not in your bunny girl outfit today?
No.
We bunnies only wear our tails on very special occasions.
Right, Bea, sit yourself down.
Hey, Bridge. How's your love life?
Oh.
Still going out with that publishing chappie?
No.
Never dip your nib in the office ink.
Right.
You really ought to hurry up and get sprogged up, you know, old girl. Times are running out. Tick-tock.
Yes.
Is horrified that Bridget is over 30 and still unmarried. She frames it as a problem that needs fixing. Now, contrast with how Daniel is treated. He's older than Bridget, yet no one is telling him his biological clock is ticking. No one is pressuring him to settle down before it's too late. Instead, he's completely exempt from these expectations. And let's be real, he takes full advantage of it. He lies, he cheats, he treats Bridget like an afterthought, and yet he's never really held accountable. Society's expectations of men and women could not be clearer. A single woman over 30 is a tragedy. A single man over 30 is just a bachelor. And that is precisely why Bridget Jones' diary remains such a valuable text for feminist discussion. Nothing about this has changed. If Bridget's self-image tells us one thing, is that she has internalized the idea that she's less competent, less intelligent, and less capable than the men around her. And who helps reinforce that idea? Right. Daniel Cleaver. This is where feminism meets social conditioning. Bridget knows she should walk away, but she's been raised in a world that tells women, be nice, be accommodating, don't be difficult, don't demand respect. At the end of the day, Bridget Jones' diary is more than just a light-hearted romantic comedy. It's a mirror held up to society. Bridget wants to be independent, yet she's trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. Daniel is given limitless freedom, yet Bridget is expected to conform. She's told she must fix herself, while men are accepted as they are. The fact that so many women still relate to Bridget today is exactly why she must be discussed critically. Because maybe, just maybe, it's not women who need fixing, it's the world they live in. I'm 24. Which means, like many of you, I grew up watching and absolutely loving these light-hearted romantic comedies. Films like Bridget Jones' Diary were a huge part of my childhood, shaping my early ideas about womanhood, relationships. Now, as an adult, I can't help but look back and realize just how powerful these narratives were in shaping young women's perception of love, specifically the idea that romance is the defining force in a woman's life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a humanist at heart. I love love. But when a trilogy as iconic as Bridget Jones, alongside countless other massively successful rom-coms, reinforces the idea that a woman's ultimate goal in life is to secure a husband, we have to stop and ask, is this really the message we want to keep absorbing? I mean, this is a film from the early 2000s, not, 1950s. Surely we should have evolved past this by now. So I didn't make this episode to tear down Bridget Jones, far from it. I will always adore Bridget in all her gothic, wine-filled glory. But I do want to offer a new lens through which to watch it, so that next time you rewatch it, or perhaps see it for the first time, you'll be able to pick up on the subtle ways these films shape our understanding of love, self-worth, and what it means to be a woman. It's time for the recommended reads. So if today's discussion has made you want to dive deeper into the themes of gender, media representation, here are some fantastic reads that I highly recommend. Chick Lit and Post-Feminism by Stephanie Harzewski. This is actually a brilliant analysis of chick lit as a genre, how it engages with feminism, and whether it reinforces or challenges traditional gender norms. And with that, we wrap up today's episode. Let me know in the comments if you have other recommendations or if you completely disagree with me on Bridget Jones. I love a good debate. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this discussion, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok, always Coscienza Femminile, for extra content. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon with a brand new episode. Who we are is ours to define.